Okay, this is gonna sound kind of weird, but the reason I wrote this new detective novel and created Memory Detective, the new game that goes with the novel, well, first of all, I was literally dying for a break from all the work I've been doing over the past decade. Phew! I mean, almost without pause, I have been reading either memory science, memory training books, or things related to running things on the internet and trying to get an edge in an epic battle against all kinds of things, and you know how complicated the internet can be. So I needed a break, and I went to the bookstore intent on finding a novel because I'd been starving myself of novels so much I didn't even crave them anymore, really. I was just nonfiction, nonfiction, nonfiction. And I really needed downtime, and I thought, going back to one of my previous loves, reading some novels would do the trick. But little did I know that the novel I chose would kick off a chain of events that made me work harder than ever before. And I mean, I had no idea what I was getting into. But all this hard work was very, very good, of course, and it led to something extraordinary. Now, it's kind of spooky, but when I was in the bookstore in Brisbane, a Michael Connelly book called The Poet almost pushed itself into my hands. It felt that way, the way that it just came to my attention, and suddenly I was reading the first sentence and I was hooked. More than just hooked, I was blown away, and soon I was back at the store to get some more Michael Connelly books. And about halfway through the second book I chose, I thought it would be really fun to write a novel myself. And that's the first reason that I wound up creating Memory Detective and Flyboy, a David Williams thriller, the Decline series, Book 1. Now, my first attempt was a really weird story called The Author, but I made a big mistake when I wrote it. I wrote it by hand, and that was partly so I would be away from computers, out in the park, and so forth. But then I thought, this is kind of cool, I'll type it up. After about typing 20,000 words, I figured, this is just not good enough to type up another 80,000 words. And so that's when I got started on another book. I was losing at chess against Jerome when the buzz of my cell phone distorted a digitized clip from the Fifth. I'd been using the ringtone for about a week because I'd heard that listening to Beethoven improved your memory. Or was that supposed to be Bach? Either way, I wasn't sure I liked either the ringtone or the buzzing. The combination made old Ludwig sound like an industrial band from the late 80s. It sounded like chainsaw teeth biting into something wet as an unseen demon spurred my cell phone's microscopic engine. But the obnoxious noise kept blaring at me because for reasons I didn't like thinking about, I kept forgetting to change it. And I was about, 3-4 pages into the story, and the whole series slammed into my head. 8 books in total. Now, originally I thought it would be 10, but I scaled it down to 8. And this is a series called the Decline series, and it is about a detective named David Williams whose memory gets better and better and better as he ages, and the world gets harder and harder and harder to live in because of technology and other things. He's got PTSD, he's got depression, and David Williams is a kind of every person figure who helps us understand how we could fit memory techniques into our daily lives and use those techniques to help fend off things like depression. And this is all research-based. And I realized that I needed to write these books, not just for myself, not to take a rest, because believe me, it's been more work than I've ever had in my life before. But it's very amusing and fun, and so far, the people who have read Flyboy, they absolutely love it and can't wait for the next book in the series. But I knew that I needed to write these books for you because this has been missing from the memory tradition for a very, very long time. Real stories where people really use memory techniques, but not in this kind of like animal goes to the zoo or a carnival and then they're memorizing foreign language vocabulary or whatever, and it's just kind of, no, this is a real portrait of somebody using real memory techniques in reality to solve crimes. And this builds a world that goes with the game where we're going to get together to also do what Detective Williams does in the novel. And it's going to be so much fun. I already know because we've had some test games and the people who played them absolutely loved them. So part of the game is following the story with this detective who in the first book, Flyboy, learns how to remember names. He learns information related to passcodes, and he has some work that he does on memorizing a poem. And without bogging the story down, you just get a sense of how he manages to fit the memorization into a very busy life, and you get the best lessons from his mentor, Jerome, who is a blind memory champion. Now, I don't want to give everything away because there are also other related games that we're going to play as I put together these different stories, and it's really, really fun, the concept that we've put together. So I hope you get in at the very beginning so you don't miss a thing. Because you're not going to only enjoy Sherlock-esque descriptions of what a real detective would do if he was using memory techniques along the way, but you'll learn how you can do it yourself, and it's really based on how memory techniques really work, which is very, very exciting. And listen, like every good game, you'll learn everything you need to know as we go. And it's just one of those things where in the tests, everybody said they could not believe how focused they were, how quickly they understood what was going on. And this is the problem that I have wanted to solve, is how do we get into this? How do we get into it as quickly as possible? It has to do with focused attention, and it has to do with being in a situation where your flashbulb memory can start to help you. And I absolutely can't wait to see how that it helps you, inspires you, and gives you a narrative world in which you can get more of your imagination engaged so that it does the heavy lifting for you. All right, thank you, and I can't wait to see you for Memory Detective.